I'm Carrie Campbell, and I'm with Courtney Emkin, and we are here today to talk about keeping your team motivated. Courtney, do you want to share some of your tips to start?
Yeah, when I was running my business, we did a lot of social media related photos and videos while the staff was taking care of the dogs out in play group. So for instance, I wasn't really good at TikTok. I didn't really understand what that was all about, but I had two employees that were very interested in it. And one of them just said, I just posted some videos. Do you mind if I post them on TikTok? And I was like, no, that'd be fantastic. And within weeks, she became like my TikTok person. And that's all she did was, like that wasn't all she did, but while she was at work, she would post like once a week, she would post something for TikTok, and it was always cute videos of dogs playing, and it was a lot of fun. So I would encourage your staff to use their phones, and you can work out a cell phone system, an SOP related to that so that it works for you and your business. But our staff just used their own phones, and they would upload things to Facebook, or they would send them to the front desk and the front desk would upload them. But cute videos, photos, you could do a dog of the day. I know a lot of people are doing tongue out Tuesdays already, but you could have themed days where you're photographing and taking video of dogs with specific themes in mind. So I would encourage any and all social posts if you trust your staff to do that for you. And if you have feedback for us, please put that in the chat, because we'd love to know what does and doesn't work for your business too.
Absolutely.
And then daycare games. I know we talk about this every year, but those are the things that you can be practicing every month just to get ready for the big competition that we have at the beginning of each year. But daycare games, Carrie, you can probably speak more to it, but they involve like group sits and recalls and this kind of gate bound. How long can you keep the gate open with 10, 15 dogs sitting in an area? Yeah. What does that look like? Because you've done it, right, Carrie?
So we used to actually tie the practice to a problem behavior. So if we had, say, some dogs that were just being unruly or play was getting a little out of control, we would have the staff practice that recall. And that's basically using the dog's name once. And then you would use any other gesture or words, like anything that made yourself look very inviting for the dog to come over and greet you. And they needed to get close enough where you could actually pet them. So that type of thing you can use not only just to practice for the daycare games and the fun of that competition, but you can use it to redirect inappropriate behavior. So I think that's a great aspect as well. I think it's very common when you have a group of dogs, if you're moving them from inside to outside or through any sort of gate, that they can crash into your knees, and you're looking at potential injury to staff as well as dogs. So working on that gate boundary where you're getting them to respect that space, that opening, and having them either just stand and wait or sit and wait is a great way just to take control of that space and have them move in a more orderly fashion, so you're not risking injury to either the staff or to the dog. And then the group sit is just fun. That's just really fun to see how many dogs can I get sitting simultaneously. And that is a great place for social media photos to be taken, because it's always impressive when you have a couple of dogs sitting together, but you get 10 to 15 dogs sitting all at once simultaneously. And parents are like, wow, they're a genius. How did they do that?
It's like magic.
Yeah.
No, it's hard work.
Yeah.
It takes lots and lots of practice.
You're skilled.
That's right. But I am a pro. So
yeah.
The other thing you can do is sometimes you all may see dogs with some problematic behavior in play groups, and then you go to report that to their pet parents when they pick up and they say, oh, my dog would never do that. But if you have the ability to capture video of some of that healthy or unhealthy play, you can use that video to show clients when they pick up, so that they see exactly what you're talking about and understand a little better when you say, I think we need to bring them into smaller play areas, or I think maybe they just need individual playtime, because right now they're just overstimulated, or they're really uncomfortable, or they're in another dog's bubble and they're not taking signals to back down when they need to. It's sometimes really helpful to have that video footage to be able to share.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another thing that comes to mind is when you have staff that may not be as engaged, whether it's they've been with you for a while, or there's a boredom factor, they're distracted by their own cell phone, if that's something you allow in your company. But one of the challenges that we used to do was to have the staff member pick that dog that's either a new dog or a dog who may be more timid or nervous, and make a direct connection with that dog using techniques like approaching the dog, not making direct eye contact, kneeling down next to it, allowing the dog to investigate you at their own pace. Anytime that you can get that connection started, that makes that dog understand that you are there. You're the advocate for that dog. If something, I always think in playgroups, you tend to have the dogs that are more assertive and you have those that are the shy ones. So you're there to redirect the assertive dog and make sure that everything stays safe. And on the shy dog side, you're there to step in and make sure that they feel safe and secure in the same environment.
That's great. That's great. Brenda had a comment. She said, we don't do group daycare. Any ideas to engage staff for those of us who primarily do boarding? And for those, I would encourage you to start practicing some enrichment activity, licky mats, puzzle, taking dogs on individual like sniffy walks where they just get to spend as much time as they want sniffing all the things. There's a lot of inexpensive or even just easy, fun things that you can do with dogs individually when they're not able to play with other dogs. And not every dog wants to play with other dogs. So it is good to have some of those ideas in your back pocket.
Absolutely. Another thing I think about is the hula hoop game, because that can be in a group setting or in an individual setting. If you have that young, exuberant doodle, which comes to mind as far as that jumping up behavior, and you just want to help staff learn to control space, they can stand in the middle of a hula hoop that's laying on the floor and just use body blocking, stepping forward, backwards, side to side, so that the dog understands that they can't come into the hula hoop space because that's the staff person's space. And it becomes a fun game to see how quickly they pick up on that. And then take the hula hoop away, and how do you apply that same principle to stop the dog from jumping up on you?
That's smart.
Yeah.
You're teaching the dogs
Yes,
as you're having fun and keeping your own brain busy. And if you need some downtime, like if the dogs are getting a little bit too rowdy and it's allowed in your facility, or if you allow your employees to do it, one of the things that my employees really enjoyed was story time with dogs. They would sit down at the dog's level and just pull out a Dr. Seuss book and just start reading children's books. And usually the dogs would really start to nod off and they would calm down. They would lay down. Some of them would fall asleep. And you can't always hear everything because sometimes there's barking, and you'd have to go slow if there's dogs that are jumping on you or things like that. You might start in a chair or something that's a little safer, or even just do it standing. But story time can really be a good activity to slow dogs down a little bit and help them rest when it's time to do that.
I'm laughing because that makes me recall a story that I walked into our senior dog room one day, and the staff member was sitting on a couch and everyone was laying next to her, and she was just quietly reading. And I realized in this very sing-songy voice that she was reading the Game of Thrones. And she said, it's okay. They're a mature audience.
That's right. That's right. It's not like they actually know what you're saying.
Sometimes it doesn't matter what they're reading as long as it's in a very kind of kindergarten teacher soothing voice.
Yes, exactly. That's hilarious. You do want to, if you can, capture some video of dogs doing healthy play, so you can show on your social media and to your clients what healthy play looks like. A lot of clients will take their dogs to dog parks and they'll let their dogs just incessantly chase other dogs, which to the dog being chased is not fun at all. So sometimes it's good to help educate your clients with video, and a lot of that happens in play groups. So I would encourage you to capture some of that too.
And it's also a great way to start a conversation with a pet parent. If you start to see a repeat over the top inappropriate behavior from a dog and it's becoming their new normal, that it may be that daycare is no longer the right environment, but you've got that documented and you can start that conversation if potentially the dog needs to be removed from.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that reminds me, I just recently saw this bell curve of dog social behavior, and the owners typically think my dog's a dog, so of course they are going to love other dogs, or hopefully they will. But in reality, there's a giant bell. And so on either end, there's dogs that really don't like other dogs at all. And then there's dogs that really love other dogs. And somewhere in the middle is the rest of the dogs who like some dogs, but not all dogs. And so sometimes it's good to help educate your clients about that too, that if your dog isn't thrilled with every dog they meet, that's not necessarily, it doesn't say anything bad about that dog. It's just, you're just trying to make the environment safe for your specific dog. And sometimes that means less playtime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Another thing that you can do, if you have your list of tools or a toolbox that your daycare attendants have as far as redirecting play, you can take one of those tools away from them. One of the things that I did not like was the word no, because
Mhm.
in general, if you yell that word, it seems like you're actually impacting every dog in the room, even though you may only be directing the word towards one dog. We would have a staff challenge where for the day, if you were in that particular play group that had those really high intensity playing dogs, that they couldn't use the word no, or that they couldn't raise their voice over a certain decibel level, so that they were calmly redirecting the behavior of those dogs throughout the day, and to see what kind of a difference that made. And they were always fascinated by when that one thing that they may rely on, that's their go-to mechanism or tool that they were using to redirect dogs, when you took that away from them and they had to use their own creativity to find something new that worked with the dogs, that they always came out with something positive from.
That's so
And then
great.
being able to document that. So if something works for you, make sure that you have listed that somewhere, wherever your shift notes, or if you have group chat in your one of the different apps that people use, that you are able to document that and say, hey, today I was in this play group and I discovered that X, Y, and Z works really well with this group. So make sure you're
Mhm.
sharing it, because the consistency with those play groups will help really eradicate some behaviors over time.
And I think that without knowing exactly where all of you are calling it or watching from, there are some facilities, depending on how you were taught or whether you work for a franchise or not, that use different ways to manage dogs. And some employees use the things that they've learned from the dog gurus, like body blocking and gate boundaries and things like that. But other facilities might use like squirt bottles or the clap and stomp method. I've heard just these things that make me want to cry, honestly. But if that is something that, you know, your company advocates, which you might think, oh, it doesn't hurt the dogs, but it's still considered to be aversive in the dog training world, you might try to play games around how can I manage the behavior without using those tools, without clapping my hands really loud, without saying, hey, or without squirting a dog with water. Those are all tools that we would never recommend that you use, but you may be working in a facility that that's what they've taught you to do. And if that is the case, see if you can manage behavior in a positive way without using those tools. And that's a challenge for you as well as for the dogs.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another thing I think of too is that when you are trying to redirect that one dog and they start to run from you, don't chase the dog, because then they just think, oh, it's a game. So coming
Mhm.
up with a way that you can, I won't say capture that dog, but redirect that dog without it becoming a game. For a lot of times we would do what we called follow the leader. So we would turn our back and start walking in the opposite direction and see how many dogs would start following us. So
Mhm.
that's a great way too, is just redirect the whole group. And then that one dog that's running away thinking they're starting a game of chase is by themselves. And they're like, oh, wait, what's going on?
Yeah, my husband used to in the early days, and we had some property, so there was trees and trails, and he would play hide and seek. And so the dogs wouldn't run off because they would wonder where he just went and they had to go find him. And it was a great way of keeping dogs close without feeling like you had to have everybody on a long line, or but I know that's not an option for everybody. But there's just so many things that you can do when you're in a group setting. And I know it's easy if you're an employee that's just bored or not sure what to do. You might think there's nothing to do, but the truth is, I mean, dog behavior is fascinating to observe, and you learn so much about the dogs just by their body language. And sometimes you can take a dog that's having a really hard day, maybe they're completely overwhelmed, maybe they've never been to playgroup before and they're just shut down, and you can document with video or photos just you giving that dog a safe space to come out of their shell and realize that this is a safe place and I can trust these people. And that can really make a difference in building trust for your clients if they see that transformation in their dog.
Absolutely. And it makes it enjoyable for everyone. So I always feel sad when I'm scrolling through different social media posts and I see either a video or that photo of a big group playing, and there's that one dog that's just the wallflower, just pinned up
Mhm.
against the wall in a corner. And I just wonder, for people who have webcams in a facility like that, is the owner of that dog looking at that dog on the video thinking, how come my dog's not able,
Right.
why aren't they
Right.
doing anything with my dog? And used to
Yeah.
take the opportunity to make a connection with those dogs as well.
And sometimes that means just sitting next to them, maybe 3 feet away, and not even trying to touch them, but just putting a hand out and leaving it there, or turning your head away. Or you can do body language yourself. Like you can yawn and stretch, or you can scratch your tummy, or there's lots of things that you can do that mimic canine body language. And you're letting that dog know that you're safe and you're not going to encroach in their space.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions out there from people who have facilities that may be looking at ways that they can inspire their staff to stay motivated?
Yeah. And what kind of things are you guys doing now to keep your staff engaged? It's
crickets.
Yeah, there's just
no questions at this point.
Yeah. One of the things that we used to do in the early days is we would give dogs nicknames that they didn't come in with. So it would be a challenge, not only to learn every dog's name, because you might, some facilities have the same dogs coming in over and over, and some have new dogs coming in all the time. And so it's a real challenge to get to know those dogs. Or if you're not working every day of the week, you might miss some that go home and come in and have to learn. You're always learning new dogs' names, but if you can give them a nickname that they didn't come with, then you remember that dog's name because you're the one who gave them the nickname and you've associated that name with a nickname. So it's a great way to get to know them. And their owners find it really entertaining when they pick up and you have a nickname for them that they don't have. It's a great way to build rapport with customers too.
That just reminded me, Courtney. So one of the things that was an expectation of mine was that the staff would learn all of the dogs' names as well as the owner's first names. And so when they came in for their evaluation day, we took a photograph at the end, if they passed, of the pet parent and the pet standing next to each other. And we used those to create flashcards. So on one side, it was the picture of the dog and the parent, and on the back side, it had both the dog's name and the pet parent's first name. So it was a way that staff could use them on if there was a quiet time in the day, if everybody was resting, just pull out those flashcards and take a look at the pet parent's name, so that if they were the person that was bringing the dog out to the pet parent at the end of the day, they could say, "Oh, hey, Tim, had a great day today. We really enjoyed playing with them," and just increase that level of customer service.
That is amazing. I love that idea. How did you print the cards? Did you print them on some kind of cardstock, or what did you?
We just put 4 on a page using Microsoft Publisher and then printed it on cardstock. So it was pretty simple to do, but
that's great.
If you're not tech savvy, that's something that you can easily gather the photos with the names on them and send them to a printer and they can put them together for you.
Wow, that is really smart. Because a lot of times employees will know the dog's names, but they won't know the customer. And the front desk staff will know the customer, but they won't know the dog. And then you're talking about the same dog, but you don't realize it because one knows the last name and one knows the dog's name.
That's very true. And it's easy in the morning when they were being dropped off for daycare because you didn't necessarily have to engage the pet parent. But if you saw that Olive Oil was coming in and you could say her name, that was very comforting to the pet parent that, oh, they really know my dog. But at the end of the night, when you're bringing them out, you don't want to be looking at 4 clients that are in your lobby trying to figure out who Olive Oil's pet parent.
Right. Especially if it's a different staff in the afternoon than in the morning, they might not know the cars. And we always had one receptionist that knew like every car and every client's name and everything that was going on with them personally. And she was just like this walking computer. It was really handy, but I was terrible with names. So I was always just welcome. So glad you're here. And I would wait for them to say their dog's name in conversation or their wife's name in conversation. So Mikey said that they did bingo and it was a fun competitive game.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I know Kendall does that at Canine Cabana in Florida. They make up bingo cards and you could have them just for play group where it's just get one dog to come out of his shell, get one hyper dog to calm down. You could make up a list of 9 or 10 things. I don't know how many squares are on a bingo card. Let's see, maybe 20.
It's either in multiples. You could do 12 or 15.
Yeah.
Right? Or maybe it's 25. But we used to do those pretty frequently. And some of the things were working specifically with a group sit or the recall. We had work on impulse control with a certain dog, maybe teaching a new trick. We would get a really nice birthday photo of a dog to put on their report card for the day. We had some things that were just simple as doing kennel challenge, like trying to get all of the dogs quietly in an enclosure, in their enclosures. Or maybe it was doing something with the facility. If it was a newer staff member, then answering the phone and actually putting the call on hold, radio to whoever. So some of them were actual tasks that were more of the job relation versus working with the pets. But overall, it was just giving them a variety of different things that they had to do in order to hit that bingo.
Yeah, yeah, that's fun. I'm thinking back to some of the videos that my staff has taken. I know we did a lot of staff did a lot of selfies with dogs, which I know this generation pet care staff is used to selfies, so don't tell me no. But you can take selfies with dogs. They would do video of just like a garden hose shooting out, and you just see a dog like jump across the screen, chasing the water, and then they go the other way. Sometimes it's really simple, just spraying a water hose and finding the dogs that want to eat that water off the hose and just go crazy. But everybody's in a different environment. Some people are indoors where it's just a big open room and there's no water other than maybe a water bucket for drinking. But if you have access, water toys, or you could have if you didn't have water, you could take a kiddie pool and fill it with those little kiddie balls that they have at the fun gymnasiums. Yep. And have dogs hunting for things like treats, or that's enrichment too. There's so many enrichment things you can do.
We used to throw Cheerios in our ball pit, so they had to hunt up the Cheerios.
See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. In general, you don't want to necessarily have tons of treats when you have groups of dogs around, but if it's little things like a Cheerio that you could just toss, and it's in such a maze that it's not, 20 dogs are going to go in and go after it all at once. It's more like a puzzle, and you do that in a smaller group environment, I would guess, when you have food and things like that. But that does sound like a fun activity for the pups.
I think if you're in a warmer climate, if you don't have one of those permanent splash pads, they sell a dog version of that on Amazon now, and it is so much fun. It's basically you just connect it to a garden hose, but it has that the squirts that come up and they're random. Yeah. And the dogs just love chasing that around as well.
Oh my gosh, I've got to go buy one of those right now. That sounds so fun.
You're going to be outside chasing the water, Courtney.
Yeah, it'll be me. It won't be the dogs. It'll just be me. No, but that does sound fun. And if you're indoors and you don't have access to all that water, you could create mazes with cones. And I know you had some of those in your classroom, like those plastic kind of poles for dividers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you had things that dogs could jump over.
We used to have all of because we didn't have lodging, and so we had the wire crate, but we had them on these trays that somebody created for us, also on wheels, so that they could move around. So we would put them in all these random orders to make a labyrinth, or they could go through them. It was a lot of fun, and it was always curious to see which of the dogs could figure it out really quickly and which really struggled.
Yeah.
Where am I going?
Yeah. What is this that I'm in? How do I get out of
it? Anything like that's mentally challenging is great.
Yeah. Anything you can do to work a dog's brain, and they're going to be more tired when they go home, and that's going to make the owner happy. In the old days, clients would always assume that their dogs needed to just be physically worn out for them to have a good day at daycare. And now they're learning that mental enrichment is as important, if not more important, than all the physical exercise. So you need a combination, obviously, but depending on their age and where they are in their lives, they may need more enrichment and less exercise. So you just have to, figure out what those individual dogs need and try to cater that to them.
And when it comes to any kind of enrichment activity, keeping your staff engaged, they are only limited by their own imagination, because there's so many things that you can do and come up with that are engaging and enriching for dogs. But it never ceased to amaze me what some of my staff would come up with. I think I've shared this on a previous Facebook Live, but I had some staff member come in one day and they had the brown bag from whatever fast food restaurant they'd gone to, which had the smell of the fast food, but it was just the empty bag. And she threw some Cheerios in there, and all of the dogs were like, "What is this strange object you laid in front of us?" And it took a while until one was brave enough to stick their head in or knock it over and get the Cheerio to come out. One by one, they were all really intrigued by this object that was placed in there. And I thought that was a really good use of her paper bag. So
that's correct. Yeah, that's correct. And that's really what you want to do, is get their brains working.
Yep.
And
staff and dogs.
Yes. Yes. Because if your staff is busy while they're there, they're less bored. Their employee satisfaction goes up. They're enjoying work more, and it's just better for everybody.
Yeah, that more one-on-one individual time with the dogs that you do with enrichment activities versus just really large group play. It's more of managing chaos that can occur. there's definitely benefits there. And I know when we converted from that traditional larger group play to enrichment and much smaller groups, that our staff really enjoyed it so much more. And that engagement on their part, their interest in it, was definitely a benefit, the conversion of that program. So
Yeah, absolutely. And if you find that you're running out of, try having a staff meeting and getting their input, because I think you'd be surprised at how many of your employees have great ideas about what they can do during that time and how to make work more fun. I think you'd get lots of great input if you opened the floor up and just took ideas from them.
Brenda, going back to your question about staff in a boarding facility or an all lodging facility, one of those enrichment activities that you could do that would give something for the dog to go home with when the parent comes to pick him up at the end of the stay would be those peanut butter paintings where you have a little canvas and you put some paint on it and then slide it in a Ziploc bag and put peanut butter on the outside of the bag. Or in our case, if we had dogs that had allergies, we would use applesauce or sometimes just plain yogurt. As they lick the peanut butter or the yogurt off of the outside of the plastic bag, it moves the paint around. So you pull this canvas out and they have this little Picasso art piece
of artwork.
So that's just also fun. And the employees really enjoy doing that. Again, it's just being creative and helping them get more engaged with the dogs. And all of that engagement is just a huge benefit for the dogs at the end of the day.